Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Roberts. We are joined tonight by John Gauger. John, welcome.
Welcome back.
Welcome to the April 16th edition of Effective, Efficient, Affordable, and above all accountable to you, the show that asks, how is it that here in Winstead, where our Board of Selectmen is so amply well endowed with experts in the learning and teaching fields, how is it that we simply don't learn from our mistakes? We know full well, ladies and gentlemen, we know full well that government by secrecy does not work. The secrets always come out, the secrets always bite us in the arse. And yet we allow our Board of Selectmen to brazenly keep us in the dark. We know full well, ladies and gentlemen, that spending more than we bring in revenue is a mistake. It doesn't work. And yet we allow our Board of Selectmen to bring forward budget after budget that does exactly that, that spends more than it brings in. And we say yes. And we know full well, ladies and gentlemen, that deficits need to be paid for. If you've incurred the bill, you have to pay for it. And yet we allow our Board of Selectmen to maintain, in open defiance of all the facts, that there is indeed a free lunch. There's no free lunch, ladies and gentlemen. There is no free lunch. You have to pay for the deficit. These are the lessons we should have learnt, but these are the lessons that our Board of Selectmen adamantly refuses to learn.
Well, you know, not only do you have to pay, but you should be looking at restructuring and reinvesting in the town. And, you know, everything I've read, from whether it be the Halbert Avenue Bridge, we're just going to barricade it, to the Sucker Brook Bridge, where it's already barricaded, to you know, you name it, there is no more reinvestment. It's just to keep the status quo going forward. We're not going to put anything on a common platform. The financial analysis for the town, we're going to have multiple CPAs, and we're going to use the old system.
Right.
Just go, you know.
Hell for leather. Damn the torpedoes. We're coming. We have long maintained, ladies and gentlemen, that it is less an issue of what the tax rate is that should determine whether we approve or disapprove a budget. And it's more an issue of what does the budget do for us? Does the budget work, and does it fix our problems? And we're going to come on to this in the second half of the show, but the proposed budget that is before you, that goes to town meeting on May 6th, doesn't either. It doesn't work, and it doesn't fix our problems. But we'll come back to that in a minute. We have been off the air for about a month. I went on vacation. It is indeed a pleasure to be back, but it's a little disappointing of how little has changed. Nothing, it seems. The only...
Be here for 30 years.
Right.
We're looking at buildings that they want to rehab that have lost their useful life 70 years ago.
Yeah. The one thing that has changed is a onslaught of new TV programs here on Channel 13, most of which seem dedicated to the proposition that you should not trust, you should not believe, you should not even watch John and me. Now, I don't think we're that important, frankly, that people should suddenly take to the air to say, don't watch them. And
well, when you have a budget like this, and you know, you're looking at a 1.7 million increase that doesn't cover
anything.
Your expected revenues, or excuse me, your expenses going forward, and you know, you look at the revenue side of it, and it's what, almost $1 million worth of water and sewer. And I think they discussed my FOI last night a little bit on the ordinance issue. The Water and Sewer Board really doesn't have the legislative power to pass an ordinance. But in that FOI, I asked for the people that were delinquent since 2010. Well, I counted just the water. There were over 500.
There's a lot of them.
And the sewer was many pages thicker. So I mean, you're building this into a budget, and people aren't paying to start with.
That's just the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. The proposed budget, and we'll go through this in sort of line by line. But the proposed budget is actually taking us backwards. It's going to make the deficit bigger, it's going to make the hole bigger, it's going to make the town less manageable, it's going to drive more businesses away, and it's going to impose more and more taxes on a smaller and smaller group of people downtown. I mean, that's what the proposed budget does.
And you look at the water and sewer, and you're stripping all capital out of it for the next 8 years, and how are they going to fix a reservoir?
Right.
Damn. I mean, it won't exist. You may as well sell it now.
It just doesn't work. But, you know, there's a bunch of TV shows that basically say, John, James, emperors with no clothes. Now, I don't know, I'm not sure it's an insult to us, but it's definitely an insult to you, ladies and gentlemen. A bunch of people are basically saying that you shouldn't be trusted to make your own judgments. A bunch of people are basically saying that you're too stupid to figure it out. We use words like trust and believe on this show a lot, but we never presume to tell you what you should trust, whom you should trust, or what you should believe.
But we have stated here for years, and I'll go back for at least 10 years, that you should have an audit, you should have some accountability, and you should look at what you're spending versus what you're bringing in to make a decision on whether it's worth it or not.
Yeah. Sound rules of the world. But because we've been off for a month, let's just review what we have told you. And let's just see how much of it actually panned out.
Shoot.
We told you that we were out of cash everywhere in town, that there was no fund balance. That's what we told you. Now, I don't think the mayor or the town manager has actually said that, although the interim finance director did say we had a negative fund balance. But I think pretty much everyone accepts now that we have no cash. So I think on number one, we did okay. We told you there was an actual cash deficit this year. Now, for months, the mayor, the town manager, told you and told us that we were full of BS. There was no deficit.
No deficit, but they didn't pay their bills.
Yeah. Now, in one memorable week in March, on Monday, the town manager told us there was no deficit. On Tuesday, he told us there was a $1.8 million deficit. And on Friday, he told us there was a $2.2 million deficit. And since then, the deficit has only grown. Per the town manager, it's now $3.2 million. Cash that we actually have to pay. Now, I think it's probably more than 3.2, and that's not just because I'm a cynic who believes that every time the town manager confesses to 3, he probably means 6, but because the revenue assumptions still seem to be optimistic and the expense assumptions still seem to have a whole bunch of fluff that's been hidden. But the fact of the matter is, we said there would be a $2.5 to $3.5 million deficit, and the town manager has now copped to 3.2.
Yes, and the revenues are rolling off. And as I just mentioned, the building of a water and sewer cash stream into the town budget, when you look at the delinquencies from water and sewer, is a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah. We said that the reason we have no fund balance, the reason we have a deficit, is because we spent more than we've brought in. That we padded the budget with revenues that don't exist. That we gave, possibly $2.5 million of unbudgeted revenues to the school board between, the 1.1 that we did in 9-10 and the 1.3 that we did in 11-12. And there's the small matter of all of the town debt that we forgot to actually budget the payment of. Now, town manager, the mayor are kind of with us a little bit on this one. Where we said that the revenues were padded, they were fraudulent, they were made up, they were bogus, they were scammed. They've sort of accepted that maybe the revenues weren't quite right. But we're quibbling over words. On the other stuff, we're miles apart. They think we have no fund balance and a deficit because water and sewer ran off with the money, or because Henry has been weaving a web of accounting irregularities, or because, even more preposterous, Henry stuffed millions of dollars in his pockets and ran off across the hills. Ladies and gentlemen, water and sewer didn't steal any money. Accounting is simply a report of how money is spent. Accounting doesn't make deficits. Spending makes deficits. And Henry didn't run anywhere. Henry is still here in town. Now, is Henry guilty of some sharp practice? Yeah, Henry was told to run the town with no money. Listen, Henry pulled every nickel out of every pocket in order to keep the town afloat. And the most extraordinary thing of all, Henry persuaded water and sewer to pony up $16 million to pay town debt obligations.
Yes.
Henry deserves a marketing medal. The man is a genius. It's amazing. How do you get a bunch of people who have nothing to do with the town bonds to pay you $16 million? Amazing, ladies and gentlemen. But once again, we've told you how we think we got to zero fund balance and a deficit. The town leaders don't agree with us. We told you your taxes would be going up huge this year to pay for all of this nonsense.
And your property values will be going down.
Well, that's what we told you. The mayor and the town manager refused to fight this one head on. They've simply said that, most of you will pay less. Well, let's just cut through this BS, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday was tax day, April 15. If you're like me, you spent the day figuring out how much you made and how much you have to pay to Uncle Sam. Now, imagine what you would have felt if you discovered that what you have to pay to Uncle Sam is kind of the same that you paid the prior year, but you earned half as much money. You'd say, I got screwed. You'd say, my taxes went up. And that's exactly what's happening here in Winsted. Your property's worth less, but you're paying the same. The mill rate is going from 24 to 31. That's a tax increase, people. That's not just a figment of somebody's imagination. The mill rate is going from 25 to 31. You are paying more. And some of you get the bonus prize. If you live downtown, water, sewer.
You pay even more.
Woo! Up 20% on water and 35% on sewer. Congratulations. And then there's the 20% of you that the town manager actually acknowledges are going to be paying through the nose for the rest of us. We said you would be paying huge tax increases this year to pay for the deficit and the policies that have led the fund balance to zero. That's exactly what the proposed budget does for you. And the final message that we've been trying to deliver to you these past several months is that none of this is a surprise. None of this is some mysterious outcome of accounting irregularities and all of this other crap. This is simply the obvious, foreseeable, predictable result of really bad policies by a succession of boards of selectmen and a succession of town managers.
I mean, we can go back to 2009 when Wayne Dove put the chart up at the town meeting.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy, ladies and gentlemen. You've got the mayor and the town manager saying, this is surprise, it's news, we didn't know, it's a mystery. Well, yeah, as John says, Wayne Dove put it in writing. He said, pay your own debt service, because there's no tooth fairy coming to pay your debt service. The accountants have said in writing over many years that the fund balance is going through the incredible disappearing fund balance thing, and we have 9 zillion fund transfers that have accomplished that. The accountants said it in writing. And if you need nothing else, the Board of Ed, God love them, ladies and gentlemen, the Board of Ed, we're lousy at dealing with our own money, but we're great at dealing with the towns. The Board of Ed told us last June there was $1.2 million deficit. They said, we got no shekels, we got no denarii, we got no money. Where's the cash, people? The Board of Selectmen has known all along exactly what's going on. Even the Board of Education told them what was going on. It seems to us that most of the messages we've delivered to you have been pretty much on the money.
Yes, and with all this, no one wants to change. No one. I mean, we've had we've had a vote on consolidating financial systems. Haven't done it. We've hired 2 CPAs now, one for either side, Board of Ed, town. We're still using the same antiquated financial system, and we expect better results. I mean, when you look at the amount of money in the financial department being spent on salaries and benefits, you would think you had the best systems available.
Right. I mean, the answers, we've talked about these answers so often. Closing a school, combining finance departments, changing benefits, rationalizing town hall, doing something with public works.
I know.
The answers are there.
The answers are there, but we raise the taxes, we strip all the capital out of water and sewer, we build a revenue stream into the town for water and sewer, and yet no one on the expense side, i.e. the contracts, change.
Right. So,
you would expect the contribution from the people that are getting the benefit of all the money.
Right. So if you think we've established any credibility, ladies and gentlemen, over the last 6 or 12 months, if you think we've been sort of close on some of the things we've been delivering, we got another message for you, which is the budget that you have before you that goes to town meeting on May 6th does not deserve your support.
It's a fraud.
It's a fraud. So what's in the budget? Big picture, what is this fraud thing that is the proposed budget?
And I'll say it's a fraud from the revenue standpoint. The revenue standpoint, as we were just talking, is there's a revenue flow from water and sewer, supposedly to pay back the town. But if you look at the delinquencies on water and sewer, they're huge.
Right.
They're huge. And you're upping one 35% and the other one 20%, and you think, you know, you're going to collect more revenue. I think you're going to have more delinquencies. You're looking at the poorest section of town
and loading it up.
And loading it up with the biggest tax burden. That's one.
Yep.
Okay, let's look at the other ones.
Well, let's take a step back. And big picture, the budget that is being proposed for you is the same budget as we have this year, except that includes a whole shitload of more taxes, a lot more pay, and a lot more benefits. It's that simple. They took exactly the same budget that we already have. We put more pay in it, more benefits, and more taxes. Now, is that a bad thing, you ask yourself? Well, did you catch the bit about the shitload of more taxes? I mean,
you're getting nothing now, and you're going to pay that much more for still nothing.
Right. I mean, we'd be okay paying more taxes if we get something for it.
Well, we don't.
All we're getting is a bigger deficit. We're paying more taxes for a bigger deficit, for a bigger supplemental tax bill to pay more taxes. It's brilliant. I mean, it's almost as good as Henry persuading water and sewer to pay the debt service. I mean, it's marketing genius.
Now,
pay more taxes to pay more taxes.
When you look at the revenue side, okay, I've talked about the water and sewer. You know, the other component in there is, you know, the budget doesn't close. Revenues don't equal expenses. They have built in there a payment from insurance.
Right.
Not $5 or $10 or $1,000, millions of dollars. Now, I'll just say this is no one's been charged with a felony yet. And to think that you're going to recover multiple millions of dollars from an insurance company without proving fraud, I mean, is you know, leaving yourself.
Yeah, we're in cloud cuckoo land. The couple of things we know about insurance claims. Number one, insurance companies take forever to pay. Number two, they nickel and dime you up the wazoo. And number three, they do their own investigation. Let's just say that a police report comes out tomorrow that says Henry did all sorts of terrible things. You know, the insurance company is going to take their own sweet time to figure out whether they actually think they're on the hook, and then they'll negotiate to pay less. And then the pièce de résistance, ladies and gentlemen, just say there is a claim. Just say there's a real valid claim. Because let's just say Henry took money from the pension fund to pay the bonds. That would give rise to a claim. But the snag is, ladies and gentlemen, the money that got paid under that insurance policy, it goes back to the pension. At no point is there a realistic claim for insurance money that actually goes into the general revenues of the town.
You know, I mean, to build all this fluff into this budget and then add another 1.7 mils on top of it, when your property values have gone down tremendously in the old town, and you know you're jacking up water and sewer, and you have tremendous delinquencies there already. I mean, it's fraud. It's just not believable.
Right. So, again, let's do the building blocks. The current budget represents, or the proposed budget represents the same as we have currently, with more pay and benefits and more taxes. I think we've covered the tax thing adequately. We'll pay more taxes if we get a result, but we're not keen on paying more taxes for just more of the same crapola. So what has the current budget brought us? The current budget brought us a bigger deficit. Last year, the deficit was $1.2 million. That's according to the Board of Education, and the town manager hasn't disagreed. At the end of this year, the town manager says it's going to be 3.2. And I think we would probably presume it's going to be bigger than that still. So the current budget made the deficit almost 3 times worse. And so why is that a good basis for a new budget? Answer, it's not. The current budget has bogus revenues. As we've just gone through, we got bogus revenues in the new budget too. The insurance crap. The current budget has hidden expenses. We got hidden expenses in the new one. We got the bond payments that someone is saying water and sewer is going to pay. Well, someone's been telling us the water and sewer is going to pay on the town debt service for the last 10 years. And guess what? They haven't.
They haven't.
And they're not going to do it again. Because we raised rates, and the first thing that happened is businesses ran for the hills. This is not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. But that's not the only reason that this is a really bad budget. The other reason is it doesn't do what we need a budget to do. We need a budget to fix the costs, the services, and we need a budget to invest in town.
And to restructure and get smaller.
Right.
I mean, you have to get smaller to be able to conserve whatever assets you have left and bring them down to a size that you can afford, whether it be smaller number of school buildings, whether it be a consolidated financial system, whether it be a smaller water and sewer department, in actual holdings, whatever, but you got to get smaller.
Right. I mean, we've got to determine what level of services we can actually provide, and we have to figure out how to provide them in the most efficient manner possible.
Right.
That's got to be the starting point of the budget. Well, the second point. The first point has to be you've got to pay for the deficit. But the second point is you've got to restructure your services so that we're doing a sensible level of services at a sensible cost.
At a rate we can pay.
We've told you for a long, long time that our current services were being eaten alive by people costs, particularly benefit costs.
And they went up tremendously this year again.
Yeah, this year is supposedly a good year. They only went up 9%. Only 9%. Holy moly, only 9%? Jesus, this is like, the sewer's only going up 35%. At a 1 to 2% inflation environment, that's sort of 18 years worth of rise all baked into one. I mean, it's terrible. But the second thing this budget fails to do, not only does it not restructure our services, it doesn't reinvest in our town. A healthy town is a town that's growing. A healthy town is a town whose tax base is growing and diversifying. A healthy town is a town which is attracting residents and attracting new investors, new employers, new businesses. This budget is not doing that. This budget is focusing all of the tax increases on the downtown. It is continuing the war on downtown. It is continuing the war on business. This budget, by building on the deficit, by increasing taxes and focusing that all on a small slither of our population, is essentially continuing the trend, reducing the tax base, leading to more downward revals, leading to more tax increases, leading to more deficits.
I mean, you're in a going out of business strategy. I mean, if you don't stop this year and change and get on a different horse, you can kiss it goodbye.
Yeah.
There is no recovery.
So, as John has said, the budget is a fraud. It's a fraud for two reasons. Number one, because it has these bogus revenues and these hidden expenses. And that's bad, ladies and gentlemen. We should not be trying to pass budgets on lies. We shouldn't be doing that. But the second reason it's a fraud is because you are being asked to pony up some $20 million in taxes on the basis of an argument that says we will spend that $20 million across the following line items. We're going to tell you what we're going to spend the money on. Only trouble is, ladies and gentlemen, the selectmen have no intention of spending the money on that. The selectmen have to pay the deficit. The first thing that the dollars go to is the shoebox full of bills.
That's it.
None of which is included in the budget.
And to get through the end of this year, you can be sure that they're not going to pay any bills.
So how is all this going to work? If we follow the Dale Candy, Marianne plan, which is to roll...
Kick the can down the road.
To roll the deficit. What does that mean? That means they're going to pay the bills they absolutely have to pay, which is Gilbert, which is payroll, and which is the bonds. And they're going to pay for nothing else. And God love the accountants and the lawyers who've signed on to this program are getting paid in 8 years' time. I mean, it's a wonderful thing that they're doing for the town, but... But the point is, it just doesn't really work. We understand why it's appealing. Gilbert wants to get paid. We understand that Marianne works for Gilbert, and so that's a good reason for having Gilbert paid. We understand that the town manager wants to get paid. That's a good reason for having town employees get paid. And we understand that the bondholders are protected by the ACC, and if you don't pay the bondholders, the ACC makes nasty things happen. So all that's good. Candy probably would like to see Region 7 get paid too. It's kind of embarrassing if you're Candy. You're the principal of the damn school. You show up every morning, people say, that's the deadbeat. That's the deputy mayor who won't pay our bills. The mayor gets Gilbert paid, the town manager gets the town janitors paid, but Candy can't get Region 7 paid. It's got to be pissing her off. But let's return to the Dale Candy Marianne plan. Next year, in the first 6 months, July through December 2013, first 6 months revenues are going to be, call it $12.5 million. It's $10.5 million from taxes and call it $2 million from grants. We're making round numbers here. If you follow the Candy Dale Marianne plan and say you're going to pay for the deficit, that's 3.2, according to the latest numbers from the town manager. You're going to pay Gilbert 3.5, that takes you up to 6.7 total. Pay the bonds takes you to 7.2. Pay payroll, that takes you to 13 to 14 million. So there's the rub, ladies and gentlemen. You've got 12 million and change of revenue to pay 13 to 14 million of quote-unquote non-deferrable bills or 19 million of total bills. It doesn't work.
So you go once again and you don't pay any more bills in the November-December time frame. You push it into the next year where you get a little more revenue, and then you collapse.
But that's assuming you haven't paid most of the bills. That's assuming that you only pay.
Yeah.
Gilbert?
Yeah.
Town payroll, school payroll, bonds, and deficit. You pay nothing else.
Who's going to do business with you?
This is crazy. It doesn't work. All you're basically saying, 12 million of revenue, 14 million of bills you quote-unquote have to pay, 19 million of total bills, the numbers don't work. This is basically the recipe for a supplemental tax, pure and simple.
Time to get off this horse, folks.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
The budget doesn't fix the deficit. The budget makes the deficit bigger. The budget doesn't restructure our services. It makes the services more expensive. The budget doesn't fix downtown. It makes downtown even less livable. The simple fact of the matter, ladies and gentlemen, we're all human. We get it. We make mistakes, but we're supposed to learn from the mistakes.
And you're
I'm trying to be polite
fix it.
here. We're supposed to fix it. Now, it seems indisputably clear that our Board of Selectmen haven't learned from their mistakes. They're not going to learn from their mistakes. They're going to tell you brazenly that they haven't made mistakes. They're not human, ladies and gentlemen. They're superhuman. Our Board of Selectmen was able to turn $1.2 million deficit into 3.2 and change. These guys are good. They're not going to learn from these mistakes. The question is, are you? The question is, are we going to learn from our mistakes? Are we going to allow another budget that doesn't work, that doesn't fix our problems, that creates even more deficit to go forward? We would say we should not.
You should vote no.
Strongly.
You should go to the town meeting, I believe it's May 6th, Gilbert School, and voice your objection to the budget. And then when the referendum is set, vote no on that day, or vote by absentee ballot.
We need a budget that ends the deficit. We need a budget that restructures our expenses. We need a budget that fixes our town. Many of us would be willing to pay more in taxes if there was a credible view that those things were going to get done. But this budget does none of that. And yet it asks for more taxes. More taxes to increase the deficit.
More taxes on properties that have decreased significantly in value, that many properties now, with the increase that is being proposed in the mill rate and the water and sewer rates, the taxes and user fees are more than a mortgage.
Yeah.
You talk about a condition where people are just going to walk away.
This is wild and crazy stuff, ladies and gentlemen.
Wild and crazy.
We are going to call an end to this evening's program, and we're going to go out with a slide. You saw a similar version of the slide on our last show. We have updated the slide for what we believe to be our esteemed mayor's latest iteration of her instruction. It used to read, sit down, shut up, and pay your taxes. Clearly, voting yes and paying more taxes is the latest and greatest version of Marianne's welcome. Mayor Welcome says, sit down, shut up, vote yes, and pay more taxes. Forget about fixing town, ladies and gentlemen. That ain't the lesson that we learn from.
And with that, we'll say good night.
Good night, and learn the lessons of Winstead. Good night.